It's another Wednesday evening. It is 10 p.m., our news start time. The store hours have changed. We are your video store clerks. I am Chad.
I am Mike.
I am Chuck. I'm Whitman.
Whitman is on Nasty's other podcast, Nasty Nation. Yeah. He will be our guest this evening because he, too, is a big fan of the love story of Mickey and Mallory.
I do. I love this movie. I love
it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Which podcast is this? Nasty Nation, right?
Nasty Nation / Graveyard Talk. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right on. Well, here is our intro. Then we'll be getting into our episode for the week.
Warning. The following podcast contains mature language and adult discussions. You have been warned.
Oh, fucking A. Well, that was some bullshit. Let's try that again in slow-mo.
Warning. The following podcast contains mature language and adult discussions. You have been warned.
Welcome to the store.
Gonna start calling you Two Take Chad.
Hey man, I'm gonna get the papers. Get the papers.
There you go.
This evening we'll be talking about natural born killers for our lovely Valentine's Day episode. We get a little sappy this time of year, very mildly sappy. That's why we watch serial killer movies.
The sappiest, like love stories.
Yeah, right. Before we get into the new week's episode, we are going to do a little bit of there's a few news stories.
Breaking news. Oh. Just shitting on them.
Shit all around the world. What do we have today? So a few things got announced. There's talks of them doing an Ant-Man 4 already.
Wow.
Even though Ant-Man 3, what comes out this weekend?
Yeah.
So I don't know. MCU's taking over. They're probably, I think, putting out like another 8 to 10 movies they're already talking about doing.
Yeah.
So we will see how that goes.
Too much for me.
They've been in works for a Splash remake for some time now, apparently, and it's finally moving forward.
The Tom Hanks movie?
Yes. I believe it's just going to be called Mermaid.
For sure.
Did she call it? Why wouldn't you call it Splish?
Splish Splash? Taking a bath?
Go and watch it on a Saturday night.
The long-awaited series that was supposed to come out with John Travolta and Kevin Hart called Die Hart was now being turned into a film and being released on Prime on February 24th. It involves Kevin Hart playing himself, basically. He wants to be an action star, so he hires an action, I guess, coordinator, which is John Travolta, to teach him the ways of being an action star.
It's going to be horrible. No, yeah, I'm done.
I don't know, man.
Mainstream's going to love it. Mainstream's going to love it. But
I'm a sucker for Travolta, especially in that kind of role. On the bigger side of the news, though, Reese Frake Waterfield, the writer-director of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, after announcing doing a sequel already, he was also talking about making X-rated adaptations of all of our childhood cartoons, including he's doing the sequel to Pooh and Honey, Blood and Honey, Then he's talking about doing the Bambi the Reckoning, where Bambi's mom gets revenge. Also, there was talks of him doing Peter Pan the Neverland Nightmare, where apparently Tinkerbell is a heavy-set drug abuser, and that's about as far as he got into it. So he's trying to do big things and make a whole universe out of his Disney characters that we grew up watching. So they were going to also do crossovers. He said fans are already talking about them having a Pooh versus Bambi crossover.
What? Of course. Like, I think it's fucking hilarious, but at the same point, it's like, this just kind of just shows a lot, like, where we're at the times, you know. Like,
I think
we want gore, we want violence, we want it all, we want the extremities of it all. Why not fucking take our fucking childhood? Why not fuck us up more, bro?
I don't know.
It's just gonna pass on to our kids and go on and
I know.
I don't care because I know I'll watch everything.
I know Winnie the Pooh comes out next week, and I've already kind of.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it totally.
It got released down in Mexico this week, so I was able to find a bootleg Mexican clip, so I got to watch it in Spanish, and I don't know if it's more fucked up in Spanish or not. So I'll have to wait and see.
It made over $1 million in Mexico already.
No, that's 1 million pesos.
I don't know. It just said dollars. So, I mean, who knows?
I was kidding.
It might be. You never know. It might be a bad movie.
Muy mal.
Wait a second. So you watched it already in Spanish?
No, well, I watched a clip of it in Spanish because they had it broken down by clips, and I watched like a scene where this chick was in the hot tub doing something, and they come and get her or whatever. But I was just like, what the fuck is this? So we'll see. It's no terrifying from what I saw, but
I don't know. He claims it's just as brutal, so I guess I will find out in a week.
Excellent.
But let's move on to the hot topic of discussion.
What's that?
Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers.
Let's.
Mickey and Mallory brutal murder love story. It's such a good love story. It's probably the best love story since Harold and Maude. It's our generation's Harold and Maude.
Okay. All right. We'll go with it.
You don't have the box, you say, Chuck?
I've got it. I just don't know where. It is
disappeared
somewhere in this mess of mine in here.
I was gonna have you read the back of the box.
Let me look one more place real quick.
The back of the box here too.
Yeah.
No.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, but it's gonna bug the fuck out of me.
But this movie came out in '94. It was originally the Quentin Tarantino story that he could not afford to get made. Apparently, at one point, he was doing it old school style with like a hand reel and black and white film out in LA running around. But then they came around and said that they would buy it off of him, so he sold it to him for $10,000. And after that, the rest is history.
Oliver Stone ended up buying the screenplay, and he rewrote it with a couple other guys and completely changed a lot of things from what Quentin Tarantino's original screenplay was. So, Natural Born Killers is listed as two victims of traumatized childhoods become lovers and psychopathic serial murderers, irresponsibly glorified by the mass media. So that's the gist of it. If you haven't seen the film, I don't know why you're watching this podcast, but
very true.
Yeah.
And if you are watching and you haven't seen it, you're missing out on a good time.
Also true.
Like, this movie is so good, I literally watched it 3 times in the last 2 days.
Man, when I first saw this movie, I probably watched it like 3 or 4 times in a row. And then
it's so good.
Then I tried to go and write my own script, and then realized that I just added a satanic cult with this movie. Yeah,
I watched it when I was too young, really, I think, to like get how maybe monumental it was, or I don't know how different it was for the time. Because as a kid, I don't know. I mean, it's a head trip, and you see they're killing people, but I don't know. It's a little different when you see it when you're 10 or 11 years old, but like,
Right.
it stuck with me even then. Yeah,
Definitely one of the most controversial films of the 90s.
absolutely.
So much controversy around this, especially at the time. If you were alive in the early 90s and you were older and you understood the landscape of the mass media, everything that was going on at that time with
Right.
O.J. Simpson, the Menendez brothers,
Watching
Tanya
all that stuff on
Harding,
TV. Yeah,
all these different things where the media has been glorifying crime and murder and all these things ended up bleeding over into this film. And Oliver Stone took that theme and expanded on Quentin Tarantino's screenplay to produce this final product.
Yeah. Which, I mean, when I was younger and first heard about this movie, I just figured, okay, it's because like when I was younger, I didn't really know about Oliver Stone that much and all that shit.
Sure.
And then it's like, I'm just thinking it's gonna be another movie where people are getting killed and whatever the fuck.
I thought it was like a Bonnie and Clyde movie,
Right.
Which it is, but there's way more stuff to it with the media and propaganda and all that stuff. But it's like, it is a Bonnie and Clyde movie, but I thought that's all it was when I was young. Just like lovers.
It's
murder.
a game changer.
Yeah, it is. It was for me.
I never. When I first started buying DVDs, okay, the two first DVDs that I had were Pantera's Home Videos, all of them, and Natural Born Killers, and that's where I watched it over and over again. I had never seen anything like it before. I bought it after renting it a bunch, and it was like I have to have this movie. And I've watched it probably more than I have. I've watched this and From Dusk Till Dawn probably more than just later movies that I've had. Yeah, and like it's just the way it's shot. The dialogue, everything in it is just like, whoa, okay, so this is how this goes. My phone, I forgot to touch the screen.
Touch it. Just touch it.
Reach
Touch
out
it.
and touch me.
Reach out, touch, Chuck. I need to touch that when it's going. Yeah. But yeah, just it's a game changer. You think you're gonna go? You're not sure of anything that's to Oliver Stone or Quentin Tarantino. This was like his first or second screenplay or whatever.
Right, it's True Romance before this, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote, yeah. Okay. And so it's like I don't know. I know that Quentin Tarantino has talked about how he doesn't really care too much for how Oliver Stone went about things, but I think it's like perfect. Two fucked up directors and writers making this movie. It's a fucking masterpiece. There's not many movies that I say are masterpieces, but how can you not say that this? This is definitely one of them.
Yeah. They definitely went in depth too with filming the movie with all the different looks, and like I think they said they used like 18 different ways of filming and styles to actually shoot this.
You had never seen a film like this in this style.
No.
Before and since. I don't think there's nothing that I can think of that jumps out like that, where you're jumping from different styles. You're jumping from color to black and white to stock footage to
Animated.
projectors to animated, all kinds of different things. And each piece is telling a different story. Oliver Stone said the way they cut it, it was like they were cutting vertically because it would be like the woman in the diner scene in the beginning who you see like she's kind of rude or weird towards Mickey, but then it cuts away to a different shot where it's like it goes from black and white to color and she's kind of flirting with him. So you get two different kind of feels. And he said that it was cut that way to kind of illustrate what people were thinking on the inside and more of an emotional picture as opposed to just seeing their natural reactions. So it's like you will see like in the diner scene when the one guy comes in and he's talking about Mallory and he's like, whatever, I just call it pussy. You see Mickey sitting there calm, just sipping his drink or whatever, but then you see a flash of him like covered in blood or whatever. And that's his inner monologue, dialogue, thinking, I want to kill this prick.
Yeah, key lime pie.
Yeah.
Key lime pie.
Give that key lime pie a day in court.
Such a good scene.
Yeah.
Oh, Skip from Major League.
Yeah. But I mean, from the beginning to the end of this movie's not boring. I mean, it's probably one of the most not boring movies ever.
Well, and even when it's some parts, like towards the end, like when Mickey's in jail and he's talking to Robert Downey Jr.'s character, I think it was Wayne Gale.
Yeah.
Even the slower parts of the movie, the writing is so good, and like just the way it's shot and everything about it just keeps you moving through it. Even in the slower parts of the film, it still has movement and just like, I mean, it's just a ride the whole way. You know?
I mean, the acting. I mean, like so many great actors. I mean, it's a great cast.
You know,
Great
Amazing
cast.
cast.
I mean, even there's people that just, that's one good thing about Quentin Tarantino related movies, or like, because I mean, even though he didn't direct, he just wrote it, but still there's a lot of stuff that Quentin Tarantino. Yeah.
You know, he makes characters, so if it's cast well, you know it's going to be just good.
But I mean,
interesting flip.
So many, like, there's people that are in it for a long time. You're like, oh, it's that person. There's people that are like, it's like Rodney Dangerfield playing Mallory's dad. You little bitch, like, what the fuck? He's like in it like what, like 3 or 4 scenes, like,
Yeah,
but
not
it's
very
like,
long.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just this is one of those movies where like the cast really does make everything just fucking perfect. Because even those moments where it could be slow, you're still intrigued by the fucking actors and actresses that are in those moments,
Well, not only is it like a great movie, but like Dave says here, the soundtrack's really good. Like, it's a great soundtrack.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Oh man,
And it's right. And then they also said, like, Trent said that he tried to get Snoop to be on it too, so he could do it, but he was on trial for murder at the time.
right?
So they couldn't do it.
Forgot about that.
I think the studio wanted Snoop in there, but like, Reznor completely took control of this soundtrack, and I think they said he watched it like 50 some times in order to try to get the feel of the film in order to create the soundtrack, and he got it completely. He completely nails it. And if you compare the soundtrack to the actual film and everything like that, it flows like in perfection.
One moment in the movie where I gotta say, where like there's a couple of times, but one in particular is when Rage Against the Machine starts playing. When the riot happens. I know we're kind of like whatever the fuck, but just like we're talking about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
When it's just like that shit starts, and you're like, it's just like, oh shit. Like, yeah, the soundtrack's fucking beautiful. It's got so many good songs, right? And the score, again, Trent Reznor, like, perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a director, there's 2 people I'd be like, I want to try like score this. It'd be John Carpenter or Trent Reznor. Simple as that.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I always liked all of Tarantino soundtracks too. Like, he does really good. Yeah,
he knows what to put in.
A little bit of everything.
But just
I learned about a lot of soul from a lot of his soundtracks.
Tarantino's such a student of film and music that he draws on like 70s funk and disco, or just anything that fits the mood, he'll put it in.
Yeah.
It kind of went with this movie, even though he wasn't the director. It just kind of the spirit of him or whatever. I don't know. It's like
I don't care what Quentin Tarantino can say about what he wasn't happy about with how this movie turned out, whatever. But if you watch this movie and then you watch his movies later on, he definitely picked up some influence from Oliver Stone. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give the devil his due. And Oliver Stone's a crazy fuck, but the man's made some good movies. Not a lot of them I like, but there's a few of them that are just like, and this is one of them, just magnificent,
And certainly a departure from his earlier films. Like, you go back and watch other stuff like Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, JFK, more, political type stuff, war, a lot of stuff revolved around his time being in the military and things like that, and his experiences. And it comes to a film like this where you're like completely blown away that it's an Oliver Stone film, because you're like, wow, this is just a different roller coaster of a trip. And it's unlike anything he ever did.
Talking about a trip, though, they actually there's because something else when I got the DVD was all the special features that I watched over and over again. Because not only did I watch the movie by itself over and over again, I also had to watch it a few times with commentary. Gave me influence. Gave me Carte blanche. No, I don't know. He gave me some kind of motivation. There's a motivation.
Inspiration, motivation.
Yeah. And one thing they were talking about is there was one moment that they all took like a handful of mushrooms each.
Well, that's what that scene is based on when, Mickey's eating those mushrooms and they're driving
out in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and Oliver, that's what him and his first cameraman or whoever, I think, was actually kind of doing that. And just kind of wrote that scene where the cop comes up behind him and trips him out and stuff.
Yeah.
Movie's a fucking head trip regardless. Doesn't matter what kind of drugs you're on. It's going to fuck you.
Definitely like Whitman was talking about earlier. They got, I think Tarantino gained inspiration from Bonnie and Clyde. Definitely influenced by the murders of 1958 by Charles Starkweather and Carol Ann Fugate.
Absolutely.
If you're not familiar with them, it was a couple that went around and killed her parents and went on a little bit of a killing spree. Nothing quite like this film, but there are similarities to it, and you can tell that inspiration was derived from those events.
Yeah, Starkweather's been an influence for a few people. Stephen King, that was one reason why he wanted to start writing these fucked up shit, because he wanted to start being able to figure out who might be a serial killer. And so Starkweather was one of those that inspired him to write certain things.
One in this movie, you can tell where he drew on like Manson. Where Mickey's in the prison, he's going on those rants about the media being man-made. It's like the weather and man-made.
It was the Geraldo Rivera interview.
Yeah, I was like, if you watch the Manson Geraldo interview, it's very, very similar to the Wayne Gale, bald Mickey interview right there in prison. Like it's
because Wayne Gale's supposed to be Geraldo.
Yeah, it's like Wayne Gale's just like the elevated Geraldo, and he's on another level. But that interview has so many consistencies with that. Just because Manson's always kind of pseudo philosophical and just he's got good points, but he's also a maniac, and it's just that kind of that same feel to it.
Rest in peace, Charlie. Actually, the funny thing about Woody Harrelson's dad. His dad was in prison. He was actually, I think he got put to death. I can't remember that. He was in prison.
Yeah, like Charles. Technically, he had got contracted to kill a federal judge down in El Paso, I think it was, back in 1979. It was federal judge John Wood, and it was the first time a sitting federal judge was assassinated in the 20th century. And it was Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, who had left long before then. He had left Woody and his, I think he has two brothers and his mother. So they never grew up with him or anything like that. He didn't actually really get to know his father until he went and visited him in prison. But his father went to prison for these crimes. He ended up getting caught. They said whenever he got caught, he was so messed up on coke that he confessed to the crime, and he also confessed to being part of the JFK assassination. And there was debate at the time whether or not he was actually involved, because he had certain information, and people speculated that he actually might be tied to the crime in some way, but it was never proven in any way. But he ended up.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to finish off with saying that he ended up dying in prison from a heart attack. He was never put to death.
I couldn't remember about that part. But Woody Harrelson's talked about in interviews before where he actually thinks that like his dad was involved with a lot more than what he went to prison for. I wouldn't be shocked, because his dad apparently was a brute. But I know that there was a part of that went into certain parts of this movie and this character, because Woody Harrelson's never really been a violent man. He's never been really,
right. You don't see him in the news for like
any
sort of anything except for like
the only thing that I've ever seen him get in the news for anything was when he came to Kentucky, and he went to a school to talk about hemp, and he went to jail.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So but like this, because you don't really. I mean, this is. Do you think of any other movie that he's been in where he's been this bad of a dude?
Not
I mean, he's been
off the top of my head.
All right. Well, actually, he's been a son of a bitch in a couple of movies. Now I think about it, but
not until this.
Not until this movie.
Like
he was just in that Man from Toronto shit with Kevin Hart not long ago, and he was a hitman.
Yeah, right.
That's probably about it.
Yeah.
Thinking about it,
a lot of more comedic roles.
Yeah, he's usually like, I mean, a white man can't jump, and it's like in Cheers and all this stuff. It's like
the cowboy way.
He's kind of the goofball, all American dude, whatever. And then this one, he's another.
That was what was so striking to me was by this time, 94, I was probably 13 or 14. And my only exposure to Woody Harrelson before that, I believe, was Cheers. So you know him as the happy-go-lucky Woody character.
Yeah.
And then you see him in this film as Mickey Knox, and you're like, holy shit, it's a completely different side. And Woody Harrelson pulls it off flawlessly.
Yeah.
And even when they did the casting for the film, Stone said that whenever he cast Harrelson, he said he cast him because he saw violence in his eyes, and if a little piece of his father is still in him some way, shape, or form, maybe we don't know. But I mean, for the most part, he's just a happy, easygoing guy. Likes to smoke his weed, just relax, chill, have a good time.
Right.
That's what he
I was supposed to go to a party at a place where Woody Harrelson goes a lot here, like in Kentucky, about 3 years ago. And everything got fucked up, and I wasn't able to go. But I heard it was a great party.
It would have been weird if they used any other actors to play this role. Like I know they said, like I guess Michael Madsen, they talked to him about playing Mickey, but they said he was too intimidating.
I'm glad they stuck what they did.
Right.
Not only that, but there was speculation that Tarantino had said something to some of the people that he had worked with, saying like, if you do this film, I'm not going to work with you again. And they said that about, I think, Buscemi. I think they said it about Tim Roth.
Yeah, because they were supposed to be Wayne.
Yeah,
like they had roles up for Wayne Gale.
So whether or not that's true or not, it might be fake news, just because he ended up saying that. If he did end up saying that, then he refuted himself by working with Juliette Lewis on From Dusk Till Dawn. So,
right. Yeah. Well, then, I think one of the producers on there worked on Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. So who really knows?
Right. It's hard to tell.
Which, talking about Juliette Lewis, dude, okay, the chick, I've always been so back and forth with her. Because there's some movies I'm just like, oh, you're irritating as balls. And I'm not going to say she's not irritating in this movie to a certain extent, but she does a great fucking job in this movie. Like, I couldn't imagine anybody else, any female, any actress, to play this role and kill it like she did. Like, I like that's the thing about this. You believe them, which is so crazy, but you do believe them. You believe that she's the fucking girl that if you go down her the wrong way, she might snap. Like nobody else could have done it. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know how they would have cast anybody else.
It's impossible.
Well, I know at first they had Tori Amos was supposed to be Mallory.
Whoa! Tori Amos was like, oh my god.
She could have done kind of like the parts. Well, I don't know if maybe she could have done it well too, but like
I like Tori Amos. I just can't see her being like that angry.
The violent part would be hard to.
Because she's not that violent of a part. She's a weird.
Maybe she is,
but maybe she is. I don't know. That'd be weird. Like it would be. We see these images on the side of the screen here, and that would be completely.
It really would. Like it could have been a whole different movie, because I know. I think Gary Oldman and James Woods was supposed to be up for the role for Scagnetti, and then they asked Chris Penn, but he turned it down because of Quentin.
Wow,
I mean, that's all speculation type shit. Like we don't really know, but that's what they say on the interweb.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt it.
Right?
It's another. Go ahead.
With a little bit of truth. Or with a little bit of a lie, there's usually a little bit of a truth also kind of in there too.
Little sliver.
Little sliver.
Juliette Lewis, another one where at that age, I think the only exposure I really had to her was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in '89.
Yeah.
So it's another one.
Man, I forgot about that.
I don't think I had seen Cape Fear at that age.
I did.
Not till later on, or California for that matter. So I hadn't really seen the other side of her.
I saw California Roller because it came on Fox 56.
I didn't see California until I was in college.
Because Cape Fear was like 91, so I was only like 10 at the time. So I'm probably not watching Cape Fear.
I watched
Right.
Cape Fear because I've always been like, I was always like, as a kid, I was always obsessed with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Nicholson, and all those guys. So like, if they were in it, I was going to watch it.
Sure.
And I watched Cape Fear. Still one of my favorite movies.
I mean, I
And
think
one of my favorite
De Niro's the reason why she got that spot in this movie, from what I was reading.
Yeah.
Sounds funny.
Yeah. I don't remember what the context of it was, but
Yeah, apparently he got mad at her.
So impressed with her. I mean, her dad. A lot of people are like, I can't remember her fucking dad's name at the moment, but I fucking dick about it. But like, her dad is the guy that was in Salem Slot. He was in Double Impact. He was Jean-Claude Van Damme. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking oh shit. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Her dad?
Her
Real
dad.
life dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's okay. He was one of the guys in Salem Slot that brought in the coffin.
Oh, Jeffrey Lewis.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Yeah. He was in
Double Impact, he was the
Devil's
father-
Rejects. Yeah.
Yeah, Devil's Rejects. Yeah.
Why didn't you say that?
I don't know. I don't like.
Yeah, okay.
I always forget that's her dad.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
And her husband is the drummer for Rage Against the Machine. So, yeah, I found out about that because she responded back on an Instagram because she had posted a video of Rage playing, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Brad Wilk, the drummer for Rage, was playing these like red symbol things, and I was like, somebody was like, "Oh, those red symbols," but I was like, "I've never seen red symbols. That's impossible." And she's like, "Nope, he just confirmed those are red symbols." And I was like, Juliette Lewis just fucking like put me in my place. All right, cool. I'm all right with it.
Right.
She's strangely attractive. Like, she's not what she is. It's so weird.
Yeah. I always thought so as well.
Yeah. I think when I was young, when I watched this, it made me fall in love with just like mean ass crazy girls.
True.
You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know, something about it, man. Just she does it for me, I guess, in this movie. Just, mean girls are, I don't know, man. They're just close to my heart, I think. So
She has that appeal in the film where she's kind of a tomboy, where she can hang with the guys,
right.
but she can still be sexy at the same time.
Doesn't sound like anybody that you've ever hung out with.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. That's like, it's maybe this is the reason
Just
why.
about every woman you hangs out with.
Yeah, every girl that most of them, I've been in this.
A couple in particular.
A couple kind of remind me of
So
Mallory.
Whitman's saying he has a type.
A little bit, maybe, just a little bit. And maybe it is because of this movie. I never really like traced that back. But
Now we're getting to therapy.
right, because I mean, I watched this when I was 10, 11 years old, almost when it came out.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is like that deep-seated. This is why. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm getting to the bottom of things on this.
I do that sometimes too. I always like, now that I'm older, I try to psychoanalyze things, and I'm like, why do I like pale goth looking women? And I'm trying to figure out where this came from. I'm like, it's got to be Elvira. When I was a kid, fucking seeing Elvira, like when you're younger and you see her with that sex appeal and everything like that, you're at that age where you're like, ooh, this is interesting, and it's like one of those first sparks of interest in the opposite sex where you're like, it resonates in your brain.
Yeah.
At least mine, anyway. Maybe I'm just fucked up. I don't know.
No, totally understand.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
Yeah. Juliette Lewis, great actress. Unfortunately, she didn't really do anything major after this. She's done a lot of stuff, but nothing that really propelled her into like superstardom or anything like that.
That's it. She's always just like being consistent, but nothing like no like groundbreaker, no like kind of put her over the top type of stuff. And I don't know why.
Right.
Really.
And she's in. I mean, honestly, she's in some of my favorite movies. I mean, Natural Born Killers, like I said, Cape Fear, From Dusk Till Dawn, Christmas Vacation. Yeah,
most of that stuff was before then. I think From Dusk Till Dawn was the only one that was after '94. That was a big one.
Is she in that show Yellow Jacket?
Yeah, I was going to say that was the last time I was actually talking to somebody about her. I was like, man, where the hell is Juliette Lewis? Because I haven't heard anything about her in a long time. And then that show on Showtime, Yellow Jackets, came out. Yeah. And I watched, they had like a free trial or something like that. And I watched the first couple episodes and I was like, this is pretty interesting. I never got to finish it, but it seemed like a good show. She did a very good job from what I saw. And Christina Ricci did a very good job from what I saw. Yeah. So
I think Dave watched it.
I got to say that the Juliette Lewis though, she is kind of like not the badass like Ripley's a badass, or like Sarah Connor's a badass, but Juliette Lewis is like she's in that like crazy girl badass, she always ends up, even in From Dusk Till Dawn where she's kind of the innocent, but she ends up kicking major ass later on, like. I don't know. She's got a good. Nothing but good things to say about her. Like honestly, when it comes down to it, yeah.
A metal band for a minute.
She was in a band.
Like a rock band.
Yeah, rock.
Yeah, I mean, just
very yes, a little more of an edge.
Yeah, I think it was Juliet and the Licks or something like that.
Yeah.
They play like Lollapalooza or Warped Tour or something.
So she's just always doing shit. You just
kind
of on the periphery.
Yeah, man.
Oh, she was in that Drew Barrymore movie. Well, Drew Barrymore directed, I think, the Roller Girl movie.
Oh shit, I never saw that.
I didn't either, but I remember she getting in that too. But, I don't know, just weird shit to write.
Most like I should see it.
Right. Yeah.
See, like in this movie too, like I know they said in Quentin's screenplay that it pretty much based on Wayne Gale for the most part, and then that's why he didn't care for Oliver Stone's little twist. But I mean, the character of Wayne Gale is great too. Like that whole fucking like transformation he has is just amazing. Like, he's just a prick, and then he just starts killing people. And then I didn't even know till recently, like apparently like Robert Downey Jr.'s Australian accent was real because he went over to Australia to visit a reporter over there, and then he came back with an Australian accent.
Yeah.
And they were like, fuck it, let's just roll with it.
And a lot of the comments I've seen on videos, Australian people are like, he nails that accent. Like they're like, it's a pretty flawless accent,
right?
As over the top as it seems, because to Americans, we're like, what the fuck is Robert Downey Jr. talking, doing this accent? What the fuck, mate?
I when I first saw it, I knew exactly who he was supposed to be. It was the whole Geraldo Rivera thing. Yeah, and like he was perfect at it. I mean, even the opening of his show was very similar to Geraldo's at the time. Geraldo, I don't know if you remember Jim Carrey doing that whole thing on in Living Color, but yeah. We were showing our age anyway. But yeah, like he did a great job with that, and the fact just showing how sleazy Geraldo Rivera probably is, like just like I don't know, like. I think he did a great job with that shit, but it kind of puts some things in perspective for me when it came down to talk show hosts. Because after watching it, like I was just like, Geraldo, you're actually really a piece of shit. And the thing is, he was. Because the thing is, how many times did Geraldo Rivera, like, I don't know, talk some shit up and fucked up? Like, what'd he do? He told us that Al Capone's, like, his big safe, his underground like cave of money and gold, and then they open it up live TV. There's nothing in it. And then when he got fired from NBC or wherever the fuck it was for giving coordinates out to where the U.S. military was. And this was after 9/11. This was like right after 9/11. Now we had this whole big thing, security problem. Yeah, and fucking Geraldo was like, "Oh, I got the fucking like 411 on this shit. Let me tell everybody." And they're like, "What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?" Like, fuck that guy. So like watching Wayne Gale, I just realized even more how scuzzy and pieces of shit these fucking talk show hosts are. Damn, man.
And RDJ we trust. Fucking Iron Man.
Hey, Robert W. He's great.
Yeah.
He is great. And then like even Tom Sizemore, like he was fucking great in that movie.
Mhm.
He was a psychotic fucking cop that was just trying so bad to get these people. He drove himself mad. And then he just
Yeah.
started fucking being just like him pretty much for the most part.
Scagnetti on Scagnetti.
He kills the.
He kills a
so good.
Trying to like get into the shoot, you know.
I wonder how much coke him and RDJ did on set.
Probably a lot.
I would say.
Well,
At that time, yeah, probably.
there's a okay.
Like 91.
Something that I remember from the special features of Natural Born Killers when it was first released on DVD was they did like with the documentary of the movie, and they had little interviews with Robert Downey Jr. In the interview, he's holding a spoon and he's just fucking with it the whole time. He's just like he put on his nose. He's just a spoon. I'm like shortly after that is when he got in trouble with waking up in a neighbor's fucking like bedroom with her kid, not doing anything sexual. He was just fucking fucked up and passed out. Like, whatever.
And
Well, I was reading somewhere too where like Oliver Stone said he was having like weird. It might have been in one of the interviews I watched. He was saying he was having weird dreams when he was filming the movie, and then he kept having like a dream where there was a headless guy sitting in a chair, and then that's why he threw that scene into the movie whenever they were doing all those clips during like the riot.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
It was supposed to represent Mickey's father. So
Okay.
whenever he would have like these emotional moments, you'd see in his inner monologue or whatever flashing back to that, and that's kind of like the spark. We saw what happened with Mallory and her family, but you didn't really get to see a whole lot of what happened with Mickey. You saw
Right.
little things,
Right.
but
Sure. Yeah.
But
Mallory was just an innocent, quote unquote, who was picked up by this meat packer guy that happens to be a bad boy. It's a story that goes on every day in America. Every day that one guy shows up and takes a daughter away and pisses off a family. And in this case, the family is a bunch of pieces of shit motherfuckers. That's
For real.
a fucking weird sentence. Yeah.
I heard somebody wanted to write a screenplay for a sequel to the film where it was going to be based on her brother Kevin.
See, I always wonder what happened to him.
Right,
It's like
because
it's
you never find out.
It's
You're
never
free.
known.
You're free.
Yeah, and you just see the house, burning, and you see the fire, and he's got the Kiss makeup and everything like that. So
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see a story of how he
I
turned out.
really.
I don't
think-
know. I don't know.
In that scene, though, I think he had the Clockwork Orange eyelash thing going on.
Yeah, I think so.
Then the one scene where Rodney Dangerfield's watching wrestling,
Kill the
and
fucking
him in
Indian.
him in that movie's fucking great. Because apparently he rewrote all of his own lines, and then fucking he didn't have really anything.
Yeah, they
like,
didn't.
he didn't know what the fuck it was about really.
See, and that's the other thing about people like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and Rob Zombie, all those people. And again, I know that Quentin wrote the movie or produced it or whatever the hell. But it's like Rodney Dangerfield, like putting certain characters, certain actors that we're so used to seeing in a certain light, like Rodney Dangerfield. Never seen him in a movie that is abusive or shitty or whatever. And then you see him being the shitty ass father he was in this movie. And you're like, damn. Like, Rodney
Well, that's what,
Dangerfield could have put a really big bad guy at one point,
Yeah, apparently Oliver Stone just said you're playing the father from hell.
Yeah, that was the
And
only
then-
direction he gave him. He never gave him really any dialogue or anything like that. And because, with somebody like Rodney Dangerfield, as a comedian, stand up, you can just put a camera on him and he's going to give you a ton of content regardless. You can just say, hey,
Right.
we're going to put you in this scene. You're going to be the dad from hell. Go with it. And that's what he ended up doing. And the way they play it off and make it a kind of a satire on I Love Lucy with I Love Mallory. Just the style and the cinematography that they do is just so amazing, and it makes the scenes that much more memorable.
Yeah.
And those scenes are just awkward to watch too, just because of the fucking subject matter, pretty much. Because you know what's up.
yeah.
Like even the mom knows what's up, and then she don't do nothing.
Yeah.
That's
That's
why they
why
end
she
up
died.
killing her. Yeah, like it's just fucked up. Like it's just an uncomfortable situation to just even watch,
Yeah.
because you're just like, fuck this. Like
Well, a lot of times,
some bullshit.
a lot of times in the time period that those parts are taking place in, sadly enough, that's actually a thing. You know, like, and there's so many like stories and shit that I've read from real occurrences, wherever people I've known, where it's like one parent knows everything, the other parent's just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And they really did take. I mean, because there's a lot of dark humor in this movie, and they use a lot of that for those scenes, I think, so it doesn't come off as serious as it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, Rodney Dangerfield's character is, like, making comments and whatever the fuck, and they're like, oh, that's really fucked up. Here's a laugh track to make it seem like I Love Lucy. Let's just make sure, because I see what they're doing, too. They were also showing the fact that a lot of sitcoms, especially at the time, had dark subjects, you know what I mean? Dark moments. And instead of hiding it, they were just like, oh, well, this is just kind of this.
Well, it's like the whole time period of the, you know, the I Love Lucy era type of, you know, you didn't show any of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, this person might be hitting their wife or cheating on their spouse or whatever, and you're not going to show any of that shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
You can't even hint at that it's happening, or it's like that's, you know, the laugh track is almost like a
Satire.
Yeah, you know, it's just played on that.
Yeah.
It was all about covering up and pushing that stuff under the rug, and like people knew all kinds of shit was going on all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's the big issue is a lot of people that condemn this film don't really understand it. And
Right.
it's a satire. It's literally taking a mirror and holding it up to society and everything that we knew at that time, where it's like, you know, like you said with I Love Lucy, and that when you grew up and you watched those shows, it was always the good. You know, there wasn't
Right.
a dark side to it. It was all fuzzy bears and rainbows, whatever.
Yeah.
And to kind of make it more real by making it a satire, it exposed a different side to it. Not only with that, but like they would cut to like commercials. Like remember in the film they did the I think it was the Coke commercial where the polar bears were there, and little things like that where in society you'd be watching the news and you'd be seeing how all these people get killed in real life. You know, a family just got murdered, you know, crime, all this terrible stuff that you've just witnessed on the 10 o'clock news. And then we're going to cut away to a nice, wholesome commercial that's going to soothe you and take away all that negative energy and make you want to buy something. And that's what this was. Like I said, it's holding a mirror up to society, especially with how we mentioned before, the media and how they were glorifying, you know, murder and crime and all this other stuff. You know, everybody tries to criticize the film and say, hey, you know, there's too much violence, but there's violence everywhere. Like if you're going to say this film causes people to go out and murder like Columbine or whatever, just because these two friggin' jagoffs like this movie, no, you don't understand people. You don't understand mental health issues because, you know, okay, this film has 145 body count, but you know what? I don't see anybody going and watching The Last Samurai and wanting to go and commit mass murder. It's got like 500 murder, you know, kills.
Right.
People don't watch Platoon. People don't watch Saving Private Ryan. Any kind of war film, any kind of anything that shows, you know, death and destruction, violence. People just don't run out of the theater and say, "Oh, well, I'm in the mood to kill." You know, and a lot of these not advocates, but people that are against this sort of thing don't understand that. It's an easy scapegoat to say, "Oh, well, this film has violence. It's the root cause." Or the music, you know, back in the day, how they blame Marilyn Manson and all this other bullshit. Oh, it's influencing people to commit crimes. No, you don't understand how these people work, how their brains work, and it has nothing to do with entertainment.
Right.
Truth.
Yeah.
How do you follow that?
Yeah, I mean that's
I gotta. I do have to add that real quick. Where Michael is surrounded by darkness. He just looks like a floating head. So you kind of remind me of House on a Haunted Hill. No hands, no hands.
He's the great and powerful Oz.
I think Chad and Dave said something about that before, and I always felt like I should like put a turban or something on my head and paint my face blue and pretend to be Zombie from Pee Wee's Playhouse. Make like a hiney ho. But yeah, we'll probably get canceled for blueface. I don't know if that's a thing yet. Or...
Goddamn
the Smurfs and the Avatar people are going to come after me. But yeah, I think to round out the cast, what we were talking about before, we can't forget our old friend Tommy Lee Jones.
Very true. Very true.
Of course.
Another amazing performance. As
he's so
Dwight
fucking
McCluskey,
good in this movie.
Dwight McCluskey, the warden of the prison.
Overacting at its finest.
Yes, very over the top character and very believable. You know,
yeah.
It's so good.
You see Tommy Lee Jones in like No Country for Old Men, and then you go back and look at this character. I mean, they're just like so different. So it's like he's a very stoic kind of actor now. I mean, he kind of always was, and he's like a caricature at this point. He's like just. I mean, he's hilarious with the mustache and I don't know, he's got like a weird like pompadour-ish kind of thing going on.
What is that called? A duck something. Oh shit, I can't remember that style of hair.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But yeah, he looks like he's playing a cartoon character. Yeah. And yeah, this is one of my favorite because especially like when the riot starts and he's like freaking out, like yeah, and then of course you get which is actually a cut scene, but if you watch the unrated or whatever, it's his head on a stick, and all the inmates are going, it's great.
Yeah, if you watch
the character deserves the head on a stick, and that was now.
Yeah, you watch the director's cut, you actually see that, and you realize that his character was murdered. In the regular film, you see everybody running towards there, and you see him climbing up the thing trying to escape, and you don't really know. He gets pulled down. You don't really know what happens. You can assume or whatever, but if you see the director's cut, you can know for sure that they tore him limb from limb and put his head on a pike.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the whole riot scene whenever like the one guard comes running in there, he's like, I don't give a fuck what your name is.
he's like, Mickey and Mallory Knox have escaped.
And what the fuck?
He's like, Scagnetti's dead. And that reaction Tommy Lee Jones gives is so great. He's like, Scagnetti's dead. And he's like, he's just like, that's not that big of a deal. But then he's like, and they're live on network TV. And he's like, what the fuck? They're live on network TV. Jesus, Harold Christ on a fucking rubber crutch. Is this happening to me? That's what he's most concerned about. Not that his prison is completely in a riot. That the cop, the famous cop that's on property has been murdered, and the two main serial killers of the film are on the loose. It's the fact that it's being broadcast, and he looks like a jag off.
I love how the riot starts. Is during the interview with him, and
he's like building them up. I mean, like, even though the inmates don't necessarily hear this, it's like he's building the movie up. You know, it's like you can feel the tension start.
Well, I think the inmates were watching the interview on the TV.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. In the lunch scene, you see them down there like the cafeteria, checking it out. I forgot about that.
But when shit starts hitting the fan, and they're like, don't let him leave. Don't do, like watch him good, blah, blah. He starts telling that joke about little Johnny.
Little Johnny, no!
And boom. Like, it's just, I don't know. I get chills every time I watch that movie. I mean, there really is so many great scenes. The riot scene, which we've talked about more than anything at this point, is one of the best riot scenes in the movie. But like even the scene where they're going to the grocery store, like after dealing with the rattlesnakes and stuff with love, love beats the demon and all that shit. Like I love that scene.
I was like, there's so many just individual scenes.
Yeah,
we talked about like you just.
There's so many of them that are so good.
Yeah, you know.
If anything, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, if anything, Tarantino's criticism of the film, them butchering certain parts of the story, because ultimately it's a love story, and I would agree with this criticism is during the film, whenever they decide to cheat on each other, it kind of whenever you're trying to make two characters where like they're unstoppable, they're inseparable, the love conquers all, and then it's like they go and cheat on each other, and you're like, what the fuck? That would be the only criticism that I would probably agree with, because it kind of hinders the plot point of, hey, love beats everything.
But it also shows. It also shows though how Mickey thinks though.
Love kills the thief.
It kind of shows how big, right? But it also shows how Mickey's mind works, and where she tries to go out and cheat on him, it doesn't work out. Like she doesn't want anybody else but him, but she tries, and of course that's what's his fucking name? Guy was in Lost Highway and shit like that. Fucking got one of those weird ass fucking names. I can't think of his fucking names. But like you can tell that she doesn't want to, whatever, but he is all about it. I don't know. It just kind of shows that like sometimes I don't know. Yes, it's one of the greatest love stories, whatever the fuck. But it also kind of shows that there isn't a little abuse of quality. Abuse of power in a way, if you will, when it comes down to like Mickey, in that scene, like especially,
yeah, makes sense.
I don't know, man. I think he redeems himself a little. If redemption,
he redeems himself, yeah. But I mean,
what's funny about the prison scene too is like whenever they were filming that for like I think like the first 4 weeks they used real inmates. Yeah, and they paid them like $50, and then they had a lockdown, so they had to bring in a bunch of extras to finish filming it.
Yeah, when they were walking, there's a part where they're walking. I guess they're getting ready to leave the prison, and they're walking kind of like behind a bunch of cells or whatever. And there's like pipes that are dripping. Apparently, those were like that. There was a pipe issue or something when they were actually going. There were actually like pipes that were like dripping like shit and piss like all over the place when they were trying to walk through that back area. Yeah. It's like
very real.
And I can't really picture them though putting them two in the same prison facility. Like you would think they would have split them up.
Well, they thought they were.
Right.
Well, it's part of the story.
They thought that was how it was going to work.
Yeah. But I mean, still, I know they had to do it for purposes, but I mean, although back then you never know, like they might have threw them in the same joint,
in the same Supermax.
Yeah, because that was a big ass prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a real prison out in Illinois. They used real convicts that were in there for violent crimes and everything like that. They gave them prop weapons and everything. Yeah. I think if you watch the behind the scenes stuff, those guys had a blast. Just because it's like their life is shit. They're stuck in this prison for their crimes, and these actors come in and they're doing all these fun scenes. These guys had a blast doing this. Yeah.
How did you not have a blast?
It was Stateville Correctional Center, I think is what it was called.
Yeah. And they said that Stone would play over the speakers in the prison African tribal music, and you can hear it in the film, which it's like whatever. I can't do it, but in those scenes when all this crazy shit is going on, you hear this tribal music, and it's so surreal. It fits. Like we said before, the soundtrack fits the scenes so well.
It really does.
Yeah. Agreed.
Such a good fucking movie. Like I might have to watch it again just for fun because it's a fun movie to watch.
I'm gonna go watch it.
I always say that I think it's my favorite movie of all time, and that's a pretty big statement. Not only because of the acting, not because of the story, not only because of the cinematography and everything like that, that all that is amazing. But I think it struck me at a certain point in my life where I was going through shit, and it meant something more to me personally. So on that level, it strikes so many different things for me
Right.
that it makes it more important, even more so. And I could go on forever. I could go for a lot more longer than time than we have, and it would sound like a goddamn Dr. Phil episode. But it kind of touches on everything we were talking about earlier, where people with mental health issues see this type of film, and they don't say, "Oh, I want to go out and kill people just because of this film." People that are dealing with shit, with depression and everything like that, at least for me, because it was the time that I was dealing with heavy depression, and it was a low point in my life. And I watched this film, and my takeaway is I don't care about the violence. I've seen violence and shit before in films and video games or whatever. It's the connection to the characters. And you feel like, okay, these characters have gone through hell. They've dealt with bullshit. And if you analyze the soundtrack and everything like that, where Reznor understands what these characters have dealt with and where they are in their lives, where you look at Burn, the song Burn, and it's like you analyze those lyrics, and it fits your mind for what you're going through, especially if you're going through depression and everything like that, where it's like you feel like you're not a part of society, like you're an outcast, and it doesn't make you say, "Hey, I want to go off and kill people," but it changes your way of thinking to where, for me, I was sad, and I was fucking shitty, and I hated things, and it changed my way of thinking to more of a I don't want to be sad anymore. Why am I sad? It changed me to more of an angry type persona, because you look at the film and the satire, and like I said, it's holding a mirror up to society. Society was basically what they're telling in the story is that society created these monsters. And you see the interview where Mickey's sitting there and he's like, you just got to hold that old shotgun in your hand and you're a natural born killer. That's not the case. It's a joke. He's giving this dickhead Wayne Gale what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Because Wayne Gale's waiting for that soundbite. He's giving him exactly what he wants, but he knows you're not natural born killers. Society creates these monsters. And I don't know where I'm going this. I'm going off into some fucking tangent, but yeah, man, it was just a film that hit me on so many different levels, and it's one of my favorites of all time. And you really got to psychoanalyze it and understand it a lot more to appreciate it, and just don't take it for its face value. If you're one of those people that are like, it's too violent or too this or too that, try to understand the characters, try to understand the message a little bit more.
Yeah, it's got a deep meaning aside from just murder and chaos.
Yeah. I think it made me analyze the media more as a young person. Seeing that so young and just like hearing Mickey's speech and stuff, but it's just like the way that it was filmed. I don't know.
They kind of exploit violence.
Yeah, and just like, being 10, 11 years old, it's like, well, you see the news, but for face value. And this movie kind of showed me that, like, there's all kinds of other stuff going on in the backgrounds, and some of it's for ratings, and it's for just seeing how the media is a business, basically, as far as news ratings and just different things. And I think being so young, it kind of turned my mind on to that concept, maybe. Maybe not, but it's one of the very early, that I can remember kind of making me think different about the media, for one, and how movies could be. Yeah. Where it does jump from animated to all these different things. So to me, seeing it so young, I think it flipped all kinds of just either artistic switches and just like made me question things a little bit in a good way, and think about
right
the Wayne Gales and the Geraldo Riveras, like, those guys are carnival barkers. They're showmen, basically. It's like, I don't know. It just made me kind of maybe cue into some of those ideas and maybe be a little more critical or analytical or something about media and just the information I'm taking in, and just I don't know. It just really kind of made me think different when I was young. I hope in a good way. I think in a good way, but I may not have should have watched it at the age I did. But I think I'd already seen violent movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the violence was not the issue there. I mean, I've watched all kinds of horror movies and crazy stuff up to that point. So I think it actually like just flipped some like good switches about just, I don't know, thinking different. I don't know.
Same wavelength there, Whitman. Exactly what I was saying. It was one of those things where it makes you think, and it opens up a different perspective in your mind, especially at that age where you're like, you know, I've dealt with a bunch of shit, and fucking other people have dealt with a bunch of shit, and these characters have dealt with a bunch of shit, and you analyze your world, and their world, and you see the similarities, and you build this connection to the characters where you're like, I don't want to. The world has made me feel this way. The world has made me think these ways, and now I'm going to think my way, and I'm going to do things my way. And it's like it turns around. Like for me, it turned the depression into anger, and I was like, you know, I'm not the shitty one. Society's the shitty one that made me feel shitty, and it's like, you know. And that's how it is. I think that's how it came across for a lot of people. They say that the Columbine guys, this was one of their favorite films. I think they probably watched it and it felt the same way that we did. That it opened your eyes. Like if you read their journals and shit like that, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, I hate even talking about these guys, but it's something that needs to be talked about because even today, our society deals with such mental health issues and so much other shit. But if you look at their journals, there's all kinds of different influences and everything like that. But they refer to this film several times, and I feel like they probably watched it and thought the same thing. Like it triggered something in their mind where they were like, "Hey, you know, this world is fucked up, and it's making us fucked up." It has nothing to do with the film, but the film is giving you some kind of not a message, but
insight,
enlightenment, more or less, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I could go on for a long time talking about
Right.
this philosophical shit, but
and
I've talked too much.
It's crazy, man. It makes you think. Any final words on this wonderful film? Aside from
it really is. Check that out.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 ever for sure.
I
don't know where. I mean, 1 or 2, 3, somewhere in there, but it's in the top 5 ever. Yeah.
Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Sorry, Quentin. It's number 1 for me. I get where you're coming from, brother. But fuck, I love this film.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be us wrapping up about Natural Born Killers. Like we said, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Don't just look at it as what it is.
Yeah.
Look for the deeper meanings, and it might help you answer questions you're asking yourself. And it may help you relieve a lot of stress that you are thinking about. Dave,
go
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
My final thing was, if you are experiencing any kind of depression or anger, if you want to hurt yourself, you want to hurt other people, realize that this isn't an inspiration. This isn't motivation to go out and do those things. These things should make you feel that, hey, I'm not alone in this world. Other people are dealing with the bullshit too, and you can overcome it. Love 100%. Beats the demon, and your love for yourself and to try to be a better person has to overcome all the bullshit of this world.
Well said.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Dave did drop us off a clip of the week in the mailbox, so let's see what we got in store today.
This burrito is delicious, but it is filling. Anthony and Cleopatra! Hello.
Who throws a burrito?
The clips of the week. Oh man!
Wow. Oh, Dave, you kill me. Well, this is going to be us signing out from the video store. Next week, Wednesday, what's the next week? February 15th?
15th, yeah.
Yes.
The day after Valentine's Day, right, Chuck?
The day after.
The day after Valentine's Day. We'll be back Wednesday at 10 p.m. with the subject of Ice Cube films.
Yay!
We're going West Coast on it. I am Chad Man.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chuck.
I'm Whitman.
And do you guys have anything going on that you want to talk about before we get off the air here?
Oh man. I got some photo shoots planned for my stuff. That's what I do. I'm a photographer on the part time, and but it's all horror based stuff. So, and that's about it. It's on Whitman Photography on Facebook and Whitman on all the other stuff, Instagram, all that stuff. So.
Nasty Nation, Graveyard Talk, Facebook pages, Bastard Sons of the Juice Code, Facebook pages, Bandcamp, YouTube, Spotify, all that fun shit. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for
Hey,
Good
thanks for
time,
coming
man.
on, chatting it
Good
up with
time.
us, man. It was a
Good time.
Yeah, good talk.
But that's us signing out from the video store. Again, check out Nasty Nation Graveyard Talk with Chuck Nasty and Whitman. And also, we will see you next week. Happy Valentine's Day. We love all you guys. We will see you next week. Get your chocolates, get your balloons, get a little wet.
I woof you. Get it?
Oh,
Get
your
hot
wieners. Video store use only hot dogs. Now in the gift shop.
Had to show off.
Got to show off
Pete.
my wieners.
Peace out, everyone. Have a good evening and have a good, safe Valentine's Day.